Hey guys, it's Tabatha, and today I want to talk about depression and anxiety and stress, like I talked about last week, and how all of those three sort of like go together and how to overcome them. So, with depression, if you've ever felt depression, it's a very crippling sort of feeling. There's a loss of energy, a loss of desire to do anything, and eventually you might even come to the point where you become indifferent and just apathetic about things. This is something that I have personally dealt with in years past. I don't really deal with it as much now that I'm older and I don't really let things bother me as much. I have become much more able to express myself in various ways so that I don't let those negative feelings, thoughts, and emotions and everything take a hold of me. But I'm going to how to do that, how to overcome them is a process that it's not a overnight sort of process. It's a continual process that I think is lifelong, because you'll always come up to something where you will feel depression about, or anxiety about, or stress about. I know, like, for me, I know how to handle anxiety, but around Christmas time, when everyone like has to go to stores and things, like, that's when my anxiety is at the highest, because I feel very uncomfortable in a large group of people who I have no idea who they are. So shopping around Christmas time, I just have panic attacks almost on the regular. So I know, like, it's never going to truly end, but that doesn't mean you have to live in it. It doesn't mean that you have to let it control your life. And ultimately, for me, the way that I've been able to overcome depression whenever it strikes, or overcome my anxiety whenever it strikes, or my stress whenever it builds up, is leaning on the Lord. With depression, there were times when it got at its worst, I was suicidal and I didn't care about anything. I was very emotionally numb. And through that is when my relationship with God really grew the most, because I had been raised in church. I knew the Lord, God, Jesus, since pretty much my birth. I was born in a Baptist medical center. Like, I've been with Jesus my whole life, pretty much. But it wasn't until around 13, when I was feeling those very dark emotions, that I really came to an understanding of God and who He was. Not a full understanding, nothing compared to what I understand now. And even still, I don't understand fully, but I have a better understanding. But that was really one thing, is to lean on God and to learn more about Him, and to really focus on Him and His calling for my life and His love and acceptance. That's what mainly got me through the depression that I felt at 13. I also had two very good best friends who are still my best friends to this day, who were there for me to lean on and to talk to. And I'm very, very grateful for them and for that, because they also gave me godly advice. So that is something that you should also do, is to go to others who you can really, truly depend on, who you can express yourself and your troubles to, with them not judging you, but also not sugarcoating things, because you'll need to hear the truth, whether you want to or not. Whenever I get super anxious, like around Christmas time, as I said, well, first of all, I just really want to go home. But I try to remind myself that what I'm feeling is not a feeling of God. Like, He doesn't want us to stay in those feelings. He understands that we're human and that we have those feelings naturally because He's God and He just knows everything. But He wants us to have a sense of peace in the chaos, an overwhelming feeling of love and joy. And so I think we should continue to remember that He's always there for us. And it's really what gets me through and helps me overcome those sort of feelings whenever they come up. Also, depending on what sparks your depression or your anxiety or stress, you might have to come to the point where you have to forgive. If you're depressed, like I was depressed because it's going to be a really lame sounding story because it happened so many years ago and I've gotten over it, that it doesn't affect me the way it did when it first happened. But I told the boy that I loved him via MySpace because that's all I had at the time. And he never responded, and he was one of my brother's best friends, and it was just like, I felt like I had destroyed my brother's friendship because right after that, the boy stopped coming over to the house. So I just felt like it was my fault, and that I ruined my brother's his friendship, and that spiraled out of control in my head because I didn't talk to anyone about it until later on in life. And I had to come to the point where I not only forgave him for ignoring me, but also myself for putting all of those thoughts on me. And forgiveness is a process. It's not really an overnight sort of process like overcoming depression or anything, but it's ultimately about healing yourself. And in turn, you're able to show love towards other people, which, if everyone could forgive the oppressors that have done them wrong, it would be a much better place in the world. But learn how to forgive. There are TED Talks about it. There are TED Talks about overcoming grief, which are really great to watch. There's research about forgiveness, psychological research about forgiveness. And then there's also just verses in the Bible that talk about forgiveness. And in my point of view, when it comes to forgiveness, if the creator of the world could forgive the very two people and the one creature that doomed the entire world, the entire race of humanity, instead of just wiping them out and starting over again, and he continues to forgive, why can't I? Why are we so hung up on this, well, I'm a human, I can do whatever I want, sort of mental state, and yet we forget that the very creator of us even forgives us for every small thing we do, what we think is insignificant or just everything that we're unconcerned with. The small things like barely going over the speed limit or rolling on through that stop sign or even like getting upset with someone who might not be going as fast as we want them to even someone who took our pencil and never gave it back, to taking a pencil and never giving it back. Like these small things that happen daily, God cares about, and He forgives you for. He forgives you for even the bigger things. Most of the people in the Bible that were called upon by God to show His glory and to do His bidding, if you will, were kind of scumbags, and He chose them anyways, and He loved them, and He forgave them for every crappy thing that they did. So if He can do that, then I think that we, as humans, who are created in His image, have the same capacity to forgive and to love, just like God does. Not saying that we are God or that we could become God. That's not what I'm trying to get across at all, but we have the capacity to strive to be like Him, and to forgive others, and that forgiving and loving will help overcome depression and anxiety and stress. And again, you're gonna deal with it for the rest of your life, but it will get smaller and smaller and less as you progress, especially when you progress in your relationship with God.